everybody. This is That's Mother and Fatherhood Legacy Talk Show back again tonight. Tonight we have on Taylor Jones. I believe Taylor is in Florida. We have Jackie Blagrove. She is in Toronto, I believe around the Richmond Hill area. And then we have Kelsey. Kelsey, I believe you're all familiar with him. He's been on the show a couple of times. Um, and so tonight, I want to just talk about growing up without fathers. Jackie has a very unique story. Growing up, she wasn't alienated, but her parents, both of her parents, went their separate ways. And she was sharing with me some of her stories, and I thought it would be best for her to join us on the show today to share her own story. And basically, by sharing that, other moms and dads probably can pick something out of what she shares. Taylor, on the other hand, she is an alienated child. She is married to um, somebody who also comes from the same background, whose children are also being alienated. So it's like a double-edged sword, coming out of one thing and then jumping into another thing. Nobody, desires to experience that. It's such an horrible experience to have in life. Um, and I'm hoping that by sharing the stories, we want to be able to create awareness with sharing our stories. At the same time, being able to share these stories brings a lot of healing. It brings a lot of healing. I've had people reach out to me, telling me how much helpful this program is to them. And so I know for sure that a lot of people are being blessed. People are, hearing these stories, and some of them are actually applying some of these stories to their own situations. And so I'm going to start off with Taylor. Taylor, do you want to share a bit about yourself briefly, and then just tell us, what got you here? How did you end up on this show today?
Right. So, yeah, so I'm Taylor, obviously, and I'm in Lake City, Florida. I kind of do what I'm doing, being a father's rights advocate, and also advocating for, I feel like, the voiceless of the alienated or former alienated child, because I was alienated from the age of 10 all the way up until the age of 18. My mom, of course, was gotten pregnant with me when her relationship with my dad became rocky. And then it all started from there, obviously. She told him that I wasn't his. So it was a fight throughout the whole pregnancy to the point when I was born. Um, he had sent his mother to kind of see, what the situation was. Was I his? Was I not? And it ended up being he believed that I was his. So he fought for about 2 years, working 3 jobs, to hire an attorney to fight to see me, to establish paternity, and to have my last name changed once he did find out it was me to his last name. So he ended up getting a basic custody arrangement, which was every other weekend. He lived in Lynn Haven, Florida, and my mother lived in Cottondale, Florida, which is about 40 minutes distance, almost an hour. He would come drive all the way there on a Friday, pick me up, and then drop me off Sunday morning. But it turned out to just be an all right battle. My mom would say, yes, you can come pick her up, but my mom would not be there, or she'll be several hours late. So making it very, very difficult. And every time I would go over there and come back, it was an interrogation. What did you do? Who was there? Was there anything said? Um, and I just remember the atmosphere at my dad's house. He was never there. He was always working. So I was always left in the care of my stepmother. But he was always angry, short tempered, always mad at something. And I just, as a child, I didn't know, didn't understand. But also holidays were always a competition between my mother and not really my dad, but just more of she wanted to prove that she was better. For some reason, I remember her buying me a computer or dropping $400 to $500 worth of Christmas toys. Also, my birthday is December 29th. So as you can imagine, Christmas, my birthday, New Year's, it's a party all month long kind of deal. I would only get a couple things from my father, but my mom would really spend a lot of money just to kind of nudge it to him that I'm better than you. I do remember when I was a child, really little, when the child support check started rolling in, my mom bought herself a new BMW. And I remember it because it was bright red. And I would like to stand on top of the car. I would sneak out of the house and stand on top of it. But later to find out that she was using child support to pay those payments. So it wasn't like my mom had a lot of responsibility with bills wise. She lived with her mother's mother, so my great great grandmother, and she was my mother was a dental hygienist, so she was making pretty good money. So she didn't have many bills to have to pay. Another thing that my father had brought up to me, and I remember I was going to the doctors all the time, and I don't know why. And my mom would have the bills sent directly to him for him to pay. And I remember being diagnosed with ADD when I was in third grade. So he would receive psychiatrist bills, psychologist bills. And it was just constant. So, and with that, I do believe my mom is a narcissist. So she made it seem that everybody else was the problem. But in reality, she is the problem. But she always had to find a way or an excuse, why I acted the way I acted. So she would blame ADD or anything that she could really find to deflect off of her. But the alienation started when I was 10 to 11 years old. I just remember getting up and going to school one day, and my mom checked me out and said, "We're going to the courthouse. You're going to tell the judge that you want your stepfather to adopt you." I'm like, "But I don't want that." And I didn't really like him. He was very verbally abusive at that time. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want him as my dad. She goes, "You're going to do it, or I'm going to beat you in front of your school." So I remember crying. I remember being in this room with these people that I didn't know. And the judge just looked at me. He goes, "Do you want your stepfather to be your dad?" And I just looked at my mother and I just saw the eye contact, the eye kind of like, "You better do it or I'm going to hurt you" kind of deal. So I did. I was like, "Yes, sure." And he didn't really question it. There was no more questions. They didn't take me to another room without my parents being there to ask me. There's no kind of investigation or anything at all. So that point forward, I didn't see my father until the age of 21. But during that time, I did ask him. He said he did call. He begged to see me, but he would call. And I remember him calling a time or two, but my mom said he was calling because of money, or he was calling because of something. He didn't want to talk to me. But then he told me he felt helpless. He just gave up pretty much. He goes, "I'll reach out to her or she'll reach out to me when she's 18." So when I was 17, 18, I was in a medical camp that his sister, so my aunt, ran. And she told me, "You really, your father loves you." I'm like, "That's funny." He gave up his rights to me because he couldn't afford child support anymore. Me not knowing the true story. I'm like, "That's not really love." She goes, "You really need to talk to him to find out the truth." I was like, "Okay." So I remember being too shy to actually call him. So being a 17, 18-year-old, I was texting. And I was texting him like, "Why didn't you love me? Why didn't you love me enough to keep fighting for me? Why did you give up your rights just because you couldn't afford child support anymore?" And he ended up, just spilling his heart out and telling me the truth. And it's still at that point, I didn't believe him because my mom was telling me one thing and then he's now telling me the other. So what really brought it home to me was my high school graduation. I'm thinking, my father has missed out on some extremely important life moments, my prom, my sweet 16, first day of school for every single year. He missed every first day of school with me. I'm like, I might as well just get him to come to my high school graduation. That's one less thing he has to miss. And my mom told me I will not be caught dead with him in the same room as me. She goes, you either choose him or you choose me. And I think that's really what kind of like brought it home for me. I'm like, okay, maybe what he is telling me is true, because if it was about me, she wouldn't have cared if he was there or not. So unfortunately, I told him I couldn't let him come because my mom wouldn't be there. If he came, he goes, you know what? I understand. It's fine. But let's just keep talking. I was like, okay. So I did inviting my aunt, which is his sister, and her husband and her kids at the time, to come. My mom would allow that, so at least his side of the family was there. But yeah, but after that, we kind of just stayed on a texting basis and called. And then I actually ran away from home twice. Once was at 18, and it didn't work out because of the home situation or where I was staying. So I ended up having to go back home. But then I met my now husband at 18 in December of 2012, and we dated a few months before I was 19, and my mom was giving me like an 8 o'clock curfew. Mind you, I had dual enrolled in high school. I was actually graduated now. I was in college full time. I was working. I was paying my car insurance, phone bill, gas, anything that I needed. I was basically just going home to sleep and then go off again. But I had an 8 o'clock curfew. She was just really saying some really nasty things. So I was trying to come to an agreement to live with a girl roommate. And with narcissists, they'll use anything to entrap you. Either that's financial abuse, that's materialistic things. My mom used me as the thing that she tried to help, hold my father to her. When that wasn't a thing anymore with me, it was my car. She refused to sign my car over. So I ended up just moving in with my now husband at the time. And so we started dating and everything. And I started talking to my dad a lot more, just asking life advice. And my husband and I ended up getting married. And at that point, I was like, you know what? It's always been a dream of mine to have my father walk me down the aisle. And that's something I never thought I would ever get to have. So he agreed. And I was 21 at the time. And he walked me down. The first time seeing him since I was 10 was him walking me down the aisle to give me away to my husband. So we still talk now. I've actually gone to his wedding, and we're just working on building that relationship that we missed out on. So, and I don't talk to my mother at all. She's just completely toxic. She has not even asked about her grandchildren because I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old. And I haven't seen her since 2012. So that's all my story in a nutshell, basically.
Wow. Well, thanks for going that far to share your story, Taylor. How did you find out? You may have probably shared this already, but I just wanted to hit on that point again. How did you uncover that your mom was misleading you all along? I mean, for years you were hearing different stories, how bad, and believe me, a lot of parents do that to these innocent children. How did you discover that she was lying all along?
I think hearing my dad's side of the story really helped me to connect the dots, things that have gone on through my childhood that didn't really make sense until I heard his side of things. So I feel like that's a very important that, alienated children hear both sides so they can connect the dots. Like certain major events um, in my childhood, like the many doctor's visits for no reason was to send those doctor's bills to my dad to hurt him financially. Or the interrogation when I got home after visiting him was to call him and, cuss him out or, try to control him. Just a lot of things connected and made sense after hearing his side for me.
So, so you had mentioned that your dad walked you down the aisle when you were getting married. Was your mom there as well?
No, I didn't invite her.
Or you didn't invite her?
She's been completely out of my life since 2012, and to me, that's by choice.
Mm,
She's extremely toxic, a narcissist. I know she's not diagnosed, but she fits every single category. She loves seeing people in misery, and she doesn't deserve to be in my life or be around her grandchildren to me.
mm. How's the relationship so far with your dad?
It definitely could be better. I would say I live in Lake City, Florida, and he lives in Lynn Haven, Panama City Beach. So we are several hours away from each other. Um, but we do talk, we do text. We see each other when we can. When he drives past going through for work purposes, he'll stop by. But we try. It's very hard in kind of these times and days. I work all the time, plus two kids. So we do what we can.
That's beautiful. It's always a joy when I hear that a child has been able to connect or reconnect back, with the dad. I mean, the you know when it comes to fatherhood, it's so important in this day and age. And I strongly believe that the absence of fathers is leading a lot of children into trouble in our society. We see a lot of chaos all around us just because the father figure has been taken out from the home. And so we see a lot of children struggling. Not that it is their fault, it's just the fact that there was no father figure in the house, or the father was just taken out, out of the house through the family court system, which is very unfortunate. And I believe that for those that are watching online, I mean, this is such a powerful story. That yes, you may be alienated, but you don't have to give up. You keep pushing, you keep trying, because every child needs a father in his or her life. You cannot cut the father off. You just can't do that. So Taylor, I'll come back to you, but let me swing over to Jackie quickly. You've shared a lot of your story with me, Jackie, but I wanted to just be able to, for you to openly share this, with our audience. You weren't alienated, but your parents were separated,
Yeah.
and you have shared with me, some of the struggles that you had whilst trying to reconnect with your dad. Would you be able to share some of these stories, with the audience,
Sure.
and
Be happy
how
to.
much of an impact it had on you?
hmm Yes. So, my I've got my mother, single mother, four children. I'm the second eldest, and I'm the only one for my father. I had a relationship with my father when I was younger, but it was a lot of in and out. I didn't see him every single day. He would come every maybe once a year or twice a month or something. It was very few and far between, basically. And when I would see him, it would be for, he bought me a bike or he brought me money or something like that. But as I got older, I came to find out that really he was coming to see my mother. That was what was going on. It wasn't really to come and see me. Um, it seemed that way at least. But as time went on and there was a bit of a situation between my father and my brother's father. And then that's when I stopped seeing my father. And it's like he never came around. And I don't know why. I don't know why I never saw him. But the situation is that now that when I got older, I started to reconnect with my father, but not in a very close way. I'd only see him through my uncle's church, my uncle on my father's side. And I would go to the church and I would see him there. The issues that I was having with that was trying to reconnect was a couple of issues. First of all, to meet up with him, it would always only be at the church, and it would be that I was surprising him when I was there, and I'm just coming to go to church. So when I would go there, he would come see me, and he would say hi to me. He would say hi to my children, say hi to my husband, and then he was gone. His fiance was there, never introduced me. It was like a very awkward situation. And it just made it awkward for everybody involved trying to do that reconnection now that I'm older, now that I'm married. The issues that I was having growing up without my father right in my life was the fact that I have now trust issues that has come into my marriage. I'm not able to. I let me put it this way. I have issues with letting go because I grew up with a single mother. She did everything. I have no example of a marriage situation, that constitution of husband and wife and what a father is to be. My mother was my father. My mother was my mother and my father. And that's what I am. It's hard for me to remove that reign that I have, or that control to release that control and give that to my husband. I feel like I always have to be in control. And that's the issue that I'm having. Now, in the reconnection with him, now that I'm older, it's so much harder to go there. It's pretty much null and void, because I think I haven't spoken to him and I don't know why, but I can tell, like, when we get together, there's this awkwardness between us because he knows I'm older, and I don't know if he knows what to say or how to say it to me. But I wish that back then, that they had, I was able to build that relationship with him, that he was always coming over, that he didn't let anybody else stop him from coming over. Because I almost feel like that was part of it. I wish that he made more of an effort to come and see me so that I could have that. I wouldn't have these issues, because I know it has to do with him. I have an older brother. I kind of looked up to him as almost like a father figure. And he's married. And he's no longer, he's not in my life in that way anymore. So it's difficult now to continue to, like I said, release that control, because I'm so used to being like my mother, being the mother and the father in the relationship. And that's something that I'm working on now through counseling, etc., to be able to have the marriage the way that it's supposed to be, and to be able to bring my children up that way. My first child, my daughter, she's older. I was a single mom with her, so she's never experienced it either. She's learning as well how to be in a relationship where there's two, where she plays the woman or the wife, quote unquote, and he's the husband, quote unquote. They're not married. So that's the thing. If you don't have that in your life, for everybody in their proper, quote unquote, their proper places, and someone else is trying to take it over, it's just very confusing, and it causes a lot of effects thereafter on the individual when they try to live their own life.
She really hit home with the trust thing. When she said trust, it almost made me tear up, because I feel the same, but also with abandonment issues. If my mom, can just up and cut me out of her life and not love me, I don't feel she knows what love is. And my dad could just give up his rights to me so easily. What makes me think my husband's not going to wake up tomorrow morning and not love me anymore. So the asking reassurance daily, like, you still love me? Am I doing everything right? Is a constant battle in my head. So also the trust thing too.
Thanks for sharing your story, Jackie. And Taylor, I just saw your T-shirt, Father's Rights. Thank you so much for advocating for fathers. I love this T-shirt. Thank you. Um, I'm gonna go back on this trust issue. I mean, it looks like you both had the same, the same issue. And Jackie had talked about how that is affecting your marriage now. How does your husband feel? Not being able to gain your trust.
He knows because we talk, so he knows where I'm coming from, and he knows that I'm working on it. But he does wish that I trust him, and I don't always question things. Do you really love me? Do you, right? I always wonder because with my father, I felt that way. I felt like, does he really love me? How does he feel about me? And another thing I'll say is, I did have, when I was younger, he did take me to his wife and my sister's house. She was younger at that time. And I remember sitting at the dinner table with them eating, and she looked just like him. And I just felt so awkward. And I remember thinking, does he, why is he with her, with them, and not with me? Why was I not included? Right? Why am I not getting that same kind of love? And that followed me till now. Like it
Wow,
hurts.
wow,
Hmm.
wow. Kelsey, any
Well,
question? Any insight?
I don't know if I have any insight. There's lots of insight with Taylor and Jackie. I'm hearing you both sort of describe, what you've gone through, and I keep thinking about, my marriage, and I heard a lot of the similar things in my marriage, and trust and abandonment, and Taylor, you mentioned Christmas presents and stuff being a one-way competition, and I've seen that all right. It's it's all the same stuff. It happens all the time, and different different levels of severity. But the whole trust and trust thing is a big challenge. It's something that really seems hard to get back. In your head you can think about it and you can think everything's okay. I know everything's all right, but kind of in your heart you're going like, but is it?
Hmm.
And that's really hard to heal.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that is I keep reflecting on the impact that you both had shared. Um, I mean, after you've gone through a situation like that, there are times when it gets very, very difficult to trust. And for many people, they wouldn't even want to just get into any relationship at all, because of that impact that it had on them. There are many that will, grow up not trusting men at all, just because of the stories. Like Taylor, your case, for example, you heard so many stories. Um, you know, Probably you are hearing it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
How bad of a father you have. He doesn't care about you. He's irresponsible. You know, and he doesn't want to be there for you. So just just forget about him. But you grow up building all these things in you, and so even when you make that first contact with your dad, you already have a perception about him
Mhm.
based on what you've been told, based on all the things that you've been told about him. And a lot of time you have to do that extra work to know who this dad truly is. And trying to understand him, trying to figure out, uh, is everything that has been said about him true or false. So much of the work basically comes back, uh, to you. Now, going back to a lot of the issues that we have in our society today, there are so many people that end up with a lot of mental issues, especially children growing up. And we see this. a lot of gun-related issues in the United States. A lot of juveniles, young children in the juveniles are also there because there was no father in their lives. And this is having a lot of impact, not just on our societies, but in our children. Like they can't really stay focused on anything just because there's something that is missing. Like half of them is gone, and they are trying to figure out who they are. Right? They're trying to figure out who they are. In your case, Taylor, you have shared with me what your husband is also experiencing. Like, how bad is it right now, taking into consideration the experience that you went through? How are you able to cope with it? How are you helping him cope with that situation?
His situation's it's kind of the same, but also kind of different. I almost want to control that situation because being a child from that situation, I'm like, you need to do this, you need to do that. This is what I wish my dad would have done, or this or that. But he was entrapped at 18 and, told he wasn't the father. 9 years later, we were getting married in 2015 in March. By October, we're assuming she had found out, hit him with $700 a month in child support. Oh, and now it's yours kind of deal. It breaks my heart because he was like, I want to give you a way out. Because at that time we were only a couple months married. He goes, I want to give you a way out. This is going to get bad. This is going to get really bad. And he goes, this is not what you signed up for. I said, but, in our vows, it's, richer or poor, sickness and health. If I back out, like, what did I say those vows for? I was willing to, open up credit cards to pay for a lawyer. We ended up having to borrow the $100 just to do a consultation. And after talking to the lawyer, it would have financially devastated us to try to get this child, to have some type of relationship or even kind of custody with this child. A DNA needed to be done. We needed to find her. We don't even know where she's at. It was going to cost a couple $1,000s, and we're just a newlywed couple. We had stayed or lived with his mom for 1.5 years prior and just moved out on our own. So he decided to not go forward with it and just wait till the child's 18 to reach out. And I told him, like, if you're going to do that, you need to document everything. And that's something I wish my dad would have done, is document, when he tried to call me, what he did, what was the response, because I can only go off the proof that he's telling me. I'm more of like, I want to see it. I want to see when you called me. I want to see, how many times you went to court, how much you paid, this and that. So I told my husband to document this and present this. You reach out to the child first. Don't let the child come to you. You reach out. So he's been completely alienated from this little boy for 16 years. So, and she only Facebook messages him whenever something about money. And he's always like, can I see this child? Can I, start a relationship, get to know? And it's always no, or it's, you can see him, but you can't tell him who you are. And he's like, well, am I supposed to be the crazy, weird uncle? Like, I know if I'm going to see him, he's going to know who I am. And she'll end the conversation there. So it's hard for me to sit back and not like, let's nail her to the wall. Let's take her to court. Let's do what we need to do. Just the fire in me. So I'm like, well, if we can't do anything with this situation, I'm going to help other fathers in this situation, other kids in this situation. So that's where I've kind of moved my focus to, because I would get obsessive with it, researching laws and talking to lawyers or people that have gone through it, what we needed to do, and I would obsess over it to the point where I would just felt like I was going crazy. So that's why I've turned the other way and just kind of will wait it out and deal with it then. And so I put my focus into other fathers, helping them with the knowledge that I've gained through the years with the process. So ultimately, that's his decision.
Question for both of you: do you think the government is doing enough to deal with this issue of alienation?
I don't think they're doing anything. I mean, I was never asked, nothing was ever investigated. I feel like in my case, it was ask while your parents are right there staring at you, threatening to beat you. Yes or no. Yes, that's it. My stepdad was able to adopt me easily. I remember talking to psychologists, telling them things, and yet nothing was ever done. That's actually something that my father and I are working on now. My stepfather is on my birth certificate because he adopted me. So we're looking legal ways to remove my stepfather off my birth certificate and get my father back on it. To me, it would be just healing, like taking my power back from my mother that she stole from me. So the crazy thing is that we found that he has my father, biological father, DNA test and all, has to adopt me to get back on my birth certificate. So we're working on that because I'm not going to let her win. And I think we were talking about statistics and, children of alienation growing up and being in jail or incarcerated or any of that. I had explained what I was doing to a man one time. And he goes, well, how did you make it out? And I'm like, step out, like, how did I not become a statistic? Because I've never been arrested. I don't even have a traffic ticket. I think the fire in me to prove my mother wrong, because she said, I remember her telling me she knew I would never amount to anything. I remember that being said, or my dad wanted me aborted. He didn't want me in at all, which wasn't true. So I used that to fuel my fire to be like, you know what? I'm going to go to college. Even though I ran away from home, I'm going to go to college, get my degree. I'm going to become successful in my career. I got married. I had children after I was married, and my husband and I have been together since 2012. I'm a team manager at a top, technological company and everything. So that I feel like that's how I made it out okay. I fueled my fire and was going to fight it tooth and I know I kind of went off subject. I'm sorry.
No. Kelsey, I know there are interest groups, especially the bar associations and the lawyers, and they have a huge interest in this battle, and I believe they are, well, not that I believe, but it's just a fact that they are one of the reasons why the government doesn't really want to do much about these issues.
Absolutely. That's a big.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say that's a big hurdle, is that there are people that are getting paid for this to continue. There are parents, there are interest groups, there are lawyers. In the U.S., there's federal bills that incentivize children to be removed from parents and put into state care. I think in Florida there was even a judge whose electoral campaign was funded by a home for children that were removed from their families. When it comes to alienation, it's just family law itself is a multi-billion-dollar a year venture. The lawyers are they've got, and it's not just the lawyers, it's child welfare specialists, it's court staff, it's judges, it's bailiffs. Like, there's some shady stuff going on in certain places, and it's billions and billions and billions of dollars. I mean, it's just entirely inaccessible for most people. Somebody takes your kid and it's coercive and controlling family violence. It's spousal abuse, it's child abuse and maltreatment. And there is nobody coming to save those children. There's nobody to make it stop. And as much as we are this information has been around for a long time. The states and provinces and federal jurisdictions, they don't want to touch it. Some of their biggest donors are from those law associations that want this to continue. And there's other groups as well. Some of these groups we fund in Canada, and they lobby the government for more money. It's a vicious cycle. But we're able to connect now in a way that we never could before. I mean, we're able to share this information, and there's a growing body of knowledge. And as long as, it's going to keep happening. So there's going to be more and more people like us who've lived it, who understand it, who can see what's happening, and who can share that with others. And eventually it will come to a point where there will be change. It's going to be
basically. Go ahead, Bill. That's right, Kelsey. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's going to be a long battle still, but there will be change eventually.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is. This will take a lot of grassroots efforts. I mean, if we are fighting from the top, I believe it's going to be one of the most challenging things to do. But what I have actually started doing, through my through the That's Matter website, is trying to rally people from everywhere. Wherever you are, you can start a chapter. We need to start this from the grassroots, create awareness, educate people on some of these issues, because for some people, they don't know about this. And believe me, I've talked to a lot of people who have no clue that this is happening in our societies.
I can speak.
Have no clue.
I had no clue. I didn't. I didn't. And I'm so happy that you have this. You're bringing this awareness, because it's so important. And it's like everyone was saying, it's the legal system, it's the government, and it's the parents. Right? It's just like Taylor was talking about her mother, the care and the loving your children is so important, and more important than all these prideful acts and all these things that the parents are doing, and the fighting and the bickering. If they could just sit down and talk it out. But we know that's wishful thinking, right? If it could be that way, that would be awesome. But the awareness really needs to get out there, and I'm so glad for this. I'm so happy for this platform. I really am. And we have to find other ways of getting this out there, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of men out there that are hurting, a lot of dads that are hurting, and they don't know who to turn to.
And they're also afraid.
Where to go.
They're afraid to speak up, or they give up before they even try, because what's the point?
Right.
All the odds are stacked up against them. So that's where I find post after post of, I just want to give up. It's just too hard. And, it breaks my heart, because I was a child begging for my dad to come save me, to not give up. And even to this day, I feel like he didn't do enough. Like, as a mother, I would never, no matter how hard, even if I was sleeping in a cardboard box, would I ever give up on my children. So that part I still don't understand, but I tried to rally a United States-wide Father's Right protest a couple of years ago. It was going to be huge, and I actually had a lawyer locally that was willing to do live Q&As to answer these fathers' questions and kind of help. But when we announced it to locally, she was threatened to be taken to the bar because it was discrimination, helping just fathers. I'm like, well, how's that true? Because there's Melissa Isaac, an attorney for men. So she ended up backing out on me because her stuff was being threatened. And I ended up getting pregnant with one of my children. So I had to back off of it a little bit. But yeah, these fathers are scared for sure.
I mean, if we do this from the bottom up, I think we can get a lot of things changed. We do this from the bottom up, go to the locals, go to the communities, the small towns, educate them, share with them. I mean, there a lot of videos out there. There are a lot of facts out there. You know, people have real stories like your story, Taylor, and yours as well, Jackie. I mean, we share with them some of these stories. I mean, they are humans. They know what is wrong and what is right. Eventually, people, will always opt for what is right and join us in fighting for this injustice in our societies. Because what I see is, broken families are being robbed, and that same money is going back to the politicians to run their campaigns.
Mhm.
That's what it is. Like like a lot of families are hurting right now just because somebody needs to take that money and pass it on to somebody else to run an election, which is wrong. We have 12 minutes. I'm gonna go to Bill because Bill has something very. I've been struggling with it myself for the past couple of days after something he had posted on Facebook, and I had shared with him some things that he need to do. Sorry, I keep calling you Bill, Kelsey. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So Kelsey, I'm gonna have you share your own story. Now, I wanted to post the text message that you got, but it's an image file. But I'm just gonna allow you to just speak for yourself, and then I'll get these two beautiful men to weigh in on it.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to talk a little bit about it. I played basketball myself growing up. I'm a lot taller in real life than I am on this screen, and I have been coaching since I was a high school player. I have coached my son's team most of the last 5 or 6 years, and when we split up, the club that my kids were at, they really, I thought they liked me. I thought it was a very good club, and I coached the first year after we split up. I figured it was about the only time I was going to get with my kids. So I coached my oldest daughter's team and my son's team. And other years, and in that first year, it was my kids my daughter specifically, who was saying, I don't want you to be my coach. I'm not going to play if you're my coach. And I coached anyway because they were looking for coaches, and there was no issue. She actually said it was pretty good at the end of it. Then the next year, I helped coach my youngest daughter's team, and then last year I was asked to coach my son's team and help coach my youngest daughter's team. And my ex, she decided she didn't want me to coach, so she sent a court order and an email to the club saying that she had sole custody and that I wasn't allowed to volunteer and coach, but only my daughter's team, not my son's team. This year, she came out and sent me a message I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, saying that she's contacted the team. She shared the court order again, and that I'm not allowed to coach any of the kids anymore. That the kids don't want me to coach them. Last year, the club, which is the largest club here in Nova Scotia, in the province that I live in, there's hundreds and hundreds of kids. I thought it was a very well managed club, and when I spoke with the president about it, he said I called a lawyer and I called a police officer, and we're not going to do anything, and you can coach. And then they kind of got back to me and said, we don't want you to coach, just back off for a bit. And I asked for it to go to the board for a decision, and the board decided that I couldn't coach because my daughter had said at that point that she didn't want me to. In the car, speaking with my mother on the phone, my daughter was so excited because we were going to go skiing a couple of days a week or snowboarding a couple of days a week, and I was going to coach her a couple of days a week, and there was a game. So she was going to get to see me every day of the week last year. And it all fell through because her mother just continued to push. Basketball and snow sports are about the only two things that I've had left with the kids. Everything else has really been taken away. Camping, canoeing, hiking, everything. So this year we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if the club is going to support the course of controlling family violence. In my family, there's been diagnosis by Dr. Stephen Miller of severe parental alienation, and this is just the same behavior that continues to happen. So you know, Lynn Steinberg was one of the people that actually commented when I posted this online. And Lynn Steinberg is a parental alienation expert from California. And she said, go do it, go coach. They'll thank you for it later. And so we'll see if I get that chance, I guess.
Yeah. You know, same thing almost happened to me. It was my other son's soccer games where basically I was basically kept out of it. And so when I found out, I actually went straight to the coach and I said, this is my son and I'm allowed to be here. I want to be here. You cannot, tell me I can't be here. And so at that time, another name had been given to him as his father. And so when the coach found out, my son said, no, that's my dad. The coach said, what the heck is this? Like, you know what? I want you to come to every game. And that's why I posted on your message initially that, you know what, just talk to them. I mean, most of these mothers, their fathers, they understand it. And a lot of time they'll put themselves in your shoes. If somebody is doing that to them, would they be happy, right? Obviously, they wouldn't like anything of that sort to be done to them. So sometimes it's always good to fight back. It's always good to fight back, and just be there, be in your face. I don't promote violence, but I think what is right is right. I mean, you're the father, and nobody can tell you not to be at their games. It's just not right. I'm gonna get Taylor and Jackie to weigh in on this as mothers. What's your view on this?
I think it's very selfish. It's obviously a very selfish act what she's doing, and it's not about the children and the effects that it's going to have on the children. And as I said, myself as an adult, not growing up with a father, it will affect the children. And I'm talking on a woman's side, but then also men, right? Growing up without their fathers. It's totally selfish. They're only thinking the parent or whomever's doing it, the mother in this case, is obviously only thinking about herself and not thinking about the children, the welfare of the children. And the sad thing is how it's going to impact them later on in their life. And I pray that this is changed.
I agree. It's utterly disgusting to me, but also the club that they're allowing this. Just the amount of power that women have in the family court system is utterly disgusting to me. And, being a woman in this father's rights movement, we're either, called a woman hater or we're not trusted by the men because they've been ultimately, destroyed by women. So it's crazy the amount of people that allow this kind of behavior to happen. Even, when I was pregnant, the doctors and nurses, never asked my husband his opinion on anything. It was always mine, or just in those kind of situations as well. So it's crazy to me.
Well, I'm touched by your comments because I think it's kind of jealousy. I think it's just somebody who's like competing for Christmas presents, but she can't coach a basketball team, so she's just trying to make sure that I don't, and then we're even, I guess. I don't know, but it doesn't stop. And this is for me 4 years, just over 4 years since we separated, and it just doesn't stop. To hear the stories of Taylor, of your husband's, child growing up, and I think you said the son's 16 years old now. I mean, that's what it does. It takes until they're age of majority, and then sometimes even later for them to start to realize. And what they lose in that time is just, you can't get it back.
It's a lot of built up anger.
Yeah, I'm really confused at this club because I really do like some of the people that are running it. One of the coaches last year, my daughter's coach last year, I really do like her, but I think she handled it totally wrong, and I don't think she really considered what I was saying, and I do think it was a hard spot for her to be in, because the club doesn't have any guidance, doesn't share anything with her, with the coaches. Like with the kids on my teams that I coach, I always go and make sure that there's, 2 email addresses. So there's, an email address for the mother and an email address for the father. And I make sure that I email them all. Both each time I send out an email, because the club doesn't do that. The club just asks for 1 email address. And I'm going like, you're cutting out half of that kid's family. Those parents don't live together. One parent may never know that their kid's playing a sport. They may never know when the games are to come and cheer their child on. And to see, I've coached some kids who've probably, from what I can tell, have come from some tough childhoods, some tough neighborhoods and upbringings. And when I've included their other parent who doesn't drop them off every time, and they come to the games, like the smiles on their faces, how hard they work, how hard they try. Like to me, it's a no-brainer. But some people just don't even know that this is a thing.
Out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And people, they don't really understand it, or unless they're going through it, they have a mother of a son going through it, or they have close friends or something going through it. Other than that, it's nobody really knows.
No.
The sad thing is in Taylor, with your story, is now you know the truth of what happened, and now the relationship with your mother is not even there. You see her for who she was, and that separation. I mean, there's just so many negative aspects to it, and there's what's happening now, and there's what's to come.
Right. I have another sister by my mom and stepdad that I do talk to. She'll be 18 in September, and she's wanting to run away too, basically. She's wanting to get out of that situation. And she doesn't know. She only knows what my mom and stepdad have told her. Mm-hmm. So when I told her, the things that happened during the childhood, because we're 11 years apart, she goes, "No, that's not true. That's not what I remember. That's not what mom told me." I'm like, So it's just, even my mom's trying to pin her against me as well. So, and I haven't seen her since I ran away as well. So it's not just, losing a mother. I've also lost a sister, I feel like, as well.
Yeah.
No, just it's almost 9:00. Just a quick question for Taylor and Jackie. Do you think a lot of these mothers do this because they are afraid of the influence that their father will have on the child?
I think in some cases I do, because again, it can become a match. Who's better, right? So maybe they think that they will love the father more, or more, want to be on the father's side more than their side. Maybe things will be uncovered that, the truth, like in Taylor's situation, the truth will be uncovered. The father's going to talk, for example. So yes, I would say.
The thing is also, my mom wanted me for herself. She had to share me with my father. When she got him alienated, I was hers. Also, I think my mom is just pure evil, because it was always, she wanted to one-up him. She wanted to hurt him in the way that he hurt her by cheating on her, or whatever the case was. I feel used. So.
Wow. It's just so sad that this is happening, societies. Nobody needs to go through this. If a marriage doesn't work out, fine, it doesn't work out. But children involved shouldn't be victims. They should not be the ones to suffer, because, somebody is being beat or just wants to be a pain in another person's life. Jackie, final word from you?
Final words is just support this program, support the platform, be informed, and get the word out there. Thank you for all that. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for all that you're doing. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Taylor?
Same. Don't stay silent. Speak up. Find out the truth. And fathers, reach out to your children. Don't wait for them to come to you.
Yeah. Well said.
Kelsey?
There's good things on the other side of fear. You have to face your fears, and there's so many people speaking up now that it's not as scary as it used to be.
Mhm.
So for all the parents out there, reach out, connect, speak up, and we'll make a difference.
Yeah, and I believe speaking up, brings a lot of healing. It just one of the difficult things I struggle to understand is like a lot of fathers are just very quiet. If the fathers are to rise up and say enough is enough, we won't change. We want to be. We want our voices to be heard. We want to be in the lives of our children. The system cannot take my children away from me. A mother or a father cannot take a child away from me. I want to be that father. I want to be that mother in the life of a child. I think if we're able to get to that point, like I think Taylor had said that earlier on, our fathers are not speaking out. Everybody is quiet and comfortable. No, I wouldn't even say comfortable, but they are hurting. They are hurting. But silent, yeah. And it's just about time to just rise up and look for that child. Just do whatever it takes to be in the life of that child. Every child needs a father. If I don't want my children to end up in places that will hurt their future, right? I want them to grow up responsibly. I want to be there for them. And so to be told that you can't be there, no, I'll do everything I can. I'll put up every fight I can to be there. They are my blood, and I cannot just push them out, right? And I truly appreciate both of you, Taylor, for all the effort you made, reconnecting with your father. And I believe you've had some relief. You've had some satisfaction being able to do that. And there are some things that you've been healed out of because of being able to reconnect with your dad. And to you, Jackie, as well. I know it's a long way, but one of my wishes is that at some point, you'll be able to reconnect more with him. To come to that place where both of you find peace. Even if a relationship cannot be built, at least a father is a father, and a father's blessing goes a very long way, right? Father is the one that blesses. Going back into scripture, it's always a father's responsibility. So even though if there's no relationship, the words that may come out of him can be words that will probably turn your life, 10 things around for you. Kelsey, I'm still standing with you, and it's just unfortunate that your ex-wife will have to do what she's doing, but at some point, I hope that somebody will speak some sense into her, to wake up. It's just wrong. It's just absolutely. She's not thinking about the children. It's more about her, and it's more about finding ways to hurt you. That's what it is. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are back again next week. As I said before, if you want to start something in your communities, reach out to me. I'll connect you to the Canadian Center of Men and Families. They have a lot of tools, a lot of resources to help start something in your communities. We need to start raising awareness. We need to start talking about these things because people need to hear our stories. People need to hear what a lot of mothers, a lot of fathers are going through. They are mothers as well who have been alienated. That's why I keep using mothers as well. But it's both sides, right? If you want to come on the show to share your story as well, by all means, you can message me and I'll be more than happy to have you on. These stories are so powerful and they go a long way in, helping others as well. Thank you so much for your time tonight. And if Kelsey, Taylor, and Jackie, if you can all stay back whilst I play this outro, and then we'll reconnect after the outro.